Venom Let There Be Carnage is here. I've been very outspoken about my opinions, mostly negative, about this movie. And now that I've seen it, I was right about some things and I was wrong about others. Let's dive into 5 thoughts about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. So let's start right away with the positives. And the first one is, of course, that this movie is short. An hour and a half is the perfect amount of time for me to have been sitting here watching this thing. I'll also say that I like Tom Hardy as Venom much better in this movie, but I don't think it's because of his performance. The best thing to be said about this movie, and the worst thing, is that this movie is so silly. But at least this time around, Tom Hardy's not the only one acting like he's in a cartoon. Everybody knows they're in a cartoon, and because of that, I think the performance comes off as better. And the action in this movie is way better than the first time. It's nothing exceptional, but at least this time I can see and make out what's happening. And although I'm not overly positive about this movie, I do think it's really well directed for what it wants to be. While I did really love Tom Hardy in this movie as Venom, I was so disappointed in Woody Harrelson as Carnage. Take it back to Carnage's first appearance in 1992, and think about where Woody Harrelson is in the 90s. If you asked what would be dream casting for Carnage, I'm sure everybody would have said Woody Harrelson. I would have said Woody Harrelson. I couldn't have picked a better actor to do this job if I tried. However, he's not given any time to shine in this movie. He does get to choose scenery, but he's just not on screen all that much. And not to spoil anything, but he definitely goes out with a huge whimper. I feel like if you had cut Shriek out of this movie entirely and just made Woody Harrelson a serial killer who was weirdly obsessed with Venom, he would have worked so much better and you would have got so much more time with him. Motivations in this movie are also all over the place, specifically at the end of the movie. When I made my Venom 2 trailer breakdown, I complained that it didn't look like they were actually gonna make Carnage Venom's son. But in a way, I guess they kinda did. Carnage does keep calling Venom his dad. But what's weird about that is even though they keep saying it, they don't do anything with it. This movie very much is set up to be a romance between Venom and Eddie, and that's where a lot of the comedy comes in. That's why it seems so strange, because you could have framed it as Eddie being Carnage's mom and Venom being Carnage's dad based on the way that Carnage is made. The first time Venom and Carnage meet, Carnage is like, "Oh hey, Dad," and Venom never responds to that. Instead he goes, "Oh no, he's red." For a movie that's so obsessed with relationship comedy, I thought there was a whole well of material that you could have tapped into there. Nobody in this movie has a clear motivation for doing anything. The final fight specifically takes about a half an hour to get all the way through. The characters are all over the place. One minute they'll be saying that they're angry because of one reason, and the next they'll be saying it about another, and most of the time those things have never been mentioned before in the movie. I also think that these Venom movies are still afraid to fully commit. What you should be getting from a movie called Let There Be Carnage, where aliens with giant teeth bite heads off of people and eat their brains, is a hard R. There should be comical violence. This should have been the kind of movie where you walked out and said, "I can't believe they did that." But it seems like every time this movie is about to get really violent or deliver on what the title of the movie is, they have to shy away. Also in the next one, don't even imply, just make them be in a real relationship. It's 2021, anyone can marry anyone. Lastly, we gotta talk about that end credit scene. I'm obviously a huge Spider-Man fan, and am I upset by this scene? A little bit. I don't care for these Venom movies if you couldn't already tell. Which is a bummer because Venom is one of my favorite villains in the comics. But at this point, I've accepted that this is the Venom we're going to have, and if we ever want Spider-Man to meet Venom, it's going to have to be this way. Which sucks because if you don't do the origin, there is no significance to Spider-Man meeting Venom. I guess the best I can say about it is at least it's Venom going to the MCU. They didn't try to pull Spider-Man into the Venomverse. And they also didn't try to say that all of these things happen at the same time. In conclusion, I still didn't love this movie, or really like it, but at least it's better than the first one and a step in the right direction. Because a bad movie that's boring like the first one will always be inferior to a bad movie that, admittedly, is very entertaining. I'm gonna go ahead and give Venom a C- teetering on a D+. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna go back to thinking about Spider-Man.